Are you making these common mead-making mistakes? I know I did, and unfortunately, they almost ruined my first few batches. Let's dive into the mistakes you'll need to avoid to make the perfect mead every time. Before we start, please don't forget to like and subscribe to this video. It really helps me produce awesome content for you to learn how to make mead. These mistakes may seem small, but they have a big impact. Skip these details and you risk ending up with a mead that's flat, overly harsh, or just plain unappealing. But by following these steps, you can turn your mead from good to great. Let's make sure every batch you make tastes incredible. Let's start off with the foundation of any good mead: yeast choice. Believe it or not, the yeast you pick has a huge impact on your mead's flavor, alcohol level, and smoothness. Picking the wrong yeast is like baking bread with cake yeast. It just won't turn out as expected. Style matters. Think about your final goal. Are you making a traditional mead or a melomel? Different yeasts work better with different styles. For example, D47 yeast is a top choice for traditional meads with moderate alcohol levels, while EC1118 works great for high ABV meads. Yeasts have specific alcohol tolerances. D47 maxes out around 14% ABV, while EC1118 can go up to 18%. So know your target ABV and pick the yeast that can handle it. Yeasts thrive in certain temperature ranges. D47 does best between 59 and 68 Fahrenheit, while EC1118 can handle much wider range up to 95 degrees Fahrenheit, making it versatile for seasonal brewing. I don't use it though, because it doesn't, for me, I don't like the taste of the champagne yeast, which is EC1118. It also dries my mead out way too much. Use my yeast selector tool for mead making to take the guesswork out of choosing your yeast. This AI-powered tool helps you select the perfect yeast for your desired mead style. Now, let's clear up a common source of confusion: primary versus secondary fermentation. Each plays a unique role in creating that perfect mead. Primary fermentation is where all the magic happens. During primary, which typically lasts 2 to 4 weeks, mine usually lasts about 10 to 12 days, yeast converts sugars into alcohol. Watch your airlock for bubbles. They should slow down when primary fermentation is nearly complete. Secondary fermentation is useful if you want to add more flavors, like fruits or spices. Transferring the mead to a secondary fermenter keeps it off the yeast sediment, giving a cleaner taste. Plus, by this stage, alcohol acts as a preservative for your added ingredients. For even more control, consider fermenting under pressure. Using a spunding valve allows you to ferment at slightly higher temperatures without introducing off flavors. This valve also helps retain some CO2, giving your mead a subtle, natural carbonation. This technique is a game changer, especially if you want a cleaner, crisper mead. To fine-tune your primary and secondary stages, try my pH adjustment tool to balance acidity and get a smoother result. Yeast need more than just honey to thrive. Honey lacks essential nutrients that yeast require to produce a clean, well-rounded mead. That's where adding yeast nutrients come in. Here's some nutrient tips. Don't add all your nutrients at once. Instead, stagger the additions over the first week of fermentation to avoid overwhelming the yeast. This helps keep fermentation strong and smooth. My 4-stage nutrient addition tool for mead making guides you on exactly how much nutrient to add and when. Yeast needs oxygen in the beginning stages. Aerate your must by shaking it or using an aeration stone or a wine whip. After primary fermentation begins, avoid oxygen to prevent oxidation. Make sure you're giving your yeast the best chance by using quality nutrients like Fermate O or Fermate K. Without these essentials, you could end up with a stuck fermentation or harsh flavors. Sanitizing your equipment isn't just good practice, it's essential. If bacteria take hold, your mead could develop unpleasant flavors or worse, spoil completely. Why is sanitation critical? Simple: bacterial contamination. Any unwanted bacteria can quickly overpower your yeast, giving you off flavors and potentially ruining the batch. Use a no-risk sanitizer on every tool that touches your must, from fermenters to airlocks. Bacteria and wild yeast are notorious for causing unwanted flavors. Sanitizing is the only way to ensure that your yeast remains the star of the show. Proper sanitation makes a night and day difference in your mead's final flavor. Don't skip this step. In mead making, patience isn't just a virtue, it's a necessity. Mead takes time to reach its full flavor potential. Rushing can lead to subpar results. Monitor each stage. Primary fermentation might only take a few weeks, but secondary can last several months. Use a hydrometer to check that the fermentation is fully stopped before bottling. This prevents bottle bombs and keeps your ABV consistent. Aging your mead for 6 months to a year or more allows flavors to mellow and complex notes to emerge. It's worth the wait. Allow each stage to complete before moving on. Let the mead do its thing for more balanced taste and aroma. Finally, let's talk about acclimating your yeast. If you add yeast straight from a rehydration solution into the must without acclimating, you risk shocking them, which can slow fermentation. Here's my acclimation process. Start by rehydrating your yeast in warm water as per the packet's instructions, usually around 104 degrees Fahrenheit. Give them time to wake up. Match temperatures gradually. Slowly add a bit of must into the yeast slurry to adjust the temperature. This prevents temperature shock and helps the yeast adapt to the must's gravity. Add nutrients early. Adding a pinch of nutrient during rehydration can help the yeast hit the ground running. I use GoFirm. Acclimating the yeast ensures they're strong and ready to ferment efficiently. Next, let's talk about water quality, because it's probably one of the most important things, if not the most important thing. The water you use makes a big difference in your mead's taste. If you're using tap water, you could be introducing chlorine or chlorophenols, which impart a medicinal taste. Instead, go for high quality water like a high pH RO water. Use bottled or filtered water if you can't access RO water. If you're using high pH RO water, it can stabilize fermentation and help with acidity. My Mead Acid Adjuster Calculator tool is perfect for balancing acidity to ensure a smooth final taste. So let's recap these key steps for a better mead. Choose the right yeast for your style of mead. Understand the roles of primary and secondary fermentation, including using a spunning valve for pressure control. Provide your yeast with staggered nutrients and oxygen during early fermentation. Sanitize all equipment to prevent contamination. Be patient, give your mead time to develop and age, and acclimate your yeast to the must gradually. If you enjoyed this video and got something out of it, please hit the like button and subscribe for more mead making tips. And remember, you can grab my free ebook, Mead-Making at Home Easily, using the link in the description or pinned comment below. For more in-depth guidance on mead making and everything I've discussed in this video, please check my other videos over here. And don't forget to use my suite of AI tools, my yeast selector, my 4-stage nutrient addition tool, pH adjustment tool, mead process designer tool, acid adjusted calculator for perfectly crafted mead every time. Until next time, happy mead making.